On this episode, we had Christopher Wherrell, a franchising consultant with the FCC, the Franchise Consulting Company. He shares his journey from a business owner to creating his own franchise, and now as a franchise consultant, how he helps others find the perfect franchise business to purchase. It's a great story. I know you'll enjoy the show. Please like and subscribe. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Hole in the Wall Business Podcast with Bill and James. I'm James Groves, and along with my business partner, Bill DeMent, we want to share our journey as small business owners with you. As owners of Hole in the Wall drywall repair, we will attempt to peel back the curtain of owning a small business in the trade service industry and talk about the many adventures of owning a small business. Hey, Bill.
James, good morning. How are you?
Doing really, really good today. Really good.
Yeah. You know, I just met today's guest during the pre-show, and we gave him a quick tour of some of the facilities. But I got a sense already it's going to be interesting. I've noticed already he's a smart guy, which you know we love.
Love that.
He's a terrific storyteller, I've already discovered. So we're in for a really interesting show.
Yeah, I love it. I met Chris, who I'll introduce in a second. I think we met at a Chamber of Commerce event, and then he's also in BNI. And so then we met through BNI a little bit more, and of course met his lovely wife, who we'll talk about here later. So anyways, I want to introduce Chris Wherrell. Chris, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, super happy to have you. Chris is a franchise consultant, and you're with the FCC, the Franchise Consulting Company, and you've got quite the story. And so we know a little bit about it, but I want to dig in so our listeners can kind of see the evolution. And I like it for one main reason. One is it's funny to see how people have evolved through their life and how one thing has led to another project.
Right.
You never start off and say, you don't like, and you're not in high school, I dream of being a franchise consultant. You just don't. But how the layers of your life kind of pile upon each other.
Right,
I never dreamt of running actually, my very first job ever was working for my uncle's drywall company. And the one thing I did not want to do when I grew up was be a drywall guy. I just didn't want to do that.
It was just meant to be, though, wasn't it?
Meant to be. Of course, I was 15. So, but anyways, I digress. Anyways, Chris, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on. And I cannot wait to hear your story and share what you have to offer for our listeners. But just kind of tell us kind of where you came from and kind of what brought you to where you are now.
Well, let's just say it's a lot of different roads, kind of like you said, just kind of lead you to where you're at, and born and raised in Orlando, which is very unusual.
Yeah,
You're the rare bird. Yep.
My parents were even raised here. So definitely grandparents still live here too. So it's definitely home for me. But just like any other Orlando native, I try to leave, and it just kind of brought me back. So, but how I got into it, I was always in construction. My dad was a home builder. He had built some houses. He was in the HVAC business for a long time as well. And I studied at University of Florida, construction as well as a business. So I figured I was probably going to end up in some kind of construction job, and obviously people used to always look at my hands and they would say, you're not a contractor. You're not one of the guys that are out there on the roof or doing whatever. But yeah, during the summers in Gainesville, I was hammering nails, working for my family member's framing business. So I know hard work. And believe me, summers in Gainesville, Florida is hot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hot. Dug some ditches too. My brother had an underground utilities company, and he put me to work, working a shovel every once in a while, so I've done it. But anyway, long story short, got back into Orlando, started working for a developer. He was building student apartments, and kind of figured out it was a telecommunications company, shockingly. And I was like, how did I end up in this telecommunications company as well? I was like, I don't want to be doing telecom. I don't know anything about this stuff. I was more on the construction. So anyway, long story, kind of kept me moving down that path. And that's where I actually ran across my wife at the time too. It was when I was working for that developer as well. And she was living in the apartment complex, and I've known her my whole life, and I was like, I think I know her. But anyway, we keep on moving down that road. I started a roofing company right after that. And this was about 2004. So all the hurricanes came through Orlando. People remember it was hurricane after hurricane.
Charlie was that year.
Charlie, Francis, and Jean. I think it was like 5 weeks, 3 hurricanes.
Yeah.
And at that time, my brother was working for a bank builder, and it was Syntex. It was Syntex, but it was a bank division of Syntex Homes. Mm-hmm. And all they did was banks. That's it. It was just little tiny strip, 1 acre lots, and they were just banging out banks. And Fifth Third Bank came into Orlando, and they were going to build 300 banks. And we were like, oh, my brother was like, hey, they're allowing us to bid on the roof, and we can bid on this and bid on that. And so next thing you know, we threw together a roofing number for these tile roofs, threw it to them, and they took it. They took the bid, and we were like, holy cow, because we
Yeah,
knew
how
what kind of
exciting.
we knew what kind of profit was on that. And we were like, are you serious? They took that bid, and they were like, yeah, you got it. And then we're like 300 banks, and we started doing the math real quick. And we're like, man, I got to run out and grab my roofing license.
Yeah.
So ran out, got my roofing license, started this roofing company. We started just doing all these banks all over the state, from Naples up to Jacksonville, just doing it. And then good old 2008 came around.
Mhm.
Markets crashed.
Still makes the hair stand up on the back of my neck.
It
frankly.
was unbelievable how a business could stop in 2 seconds. Just like poof, you're done. And so right then I had to jump into residential roofing. And I didn't want to do residential roofing. It was just something I was like, I wasn't prepared, where the professional, and I'm not saying any residential roofers are not professional, but
Yeah.
when you're dealing with commercial, multi-million-dollar projects, there's a whole nother level of expectations and relations. And so we went into residential roofing. I was hating it. I just told my wife, I said, I either got to go get a job, or we got to make some changes real quick. So we came together. We started looking at purchasing a gym. We were like, okay, let's just go buy a gym. I was into fitness. I was a collegiate cheerleader up at University of Florida. My wife was running fitness for LA Fitness and stuff. And so I said, I had a buddy that was in the business broker world. And I said, hey man, let's buy a gym. And he's like, well, there's one downtown Orlando. You should go check this place out. So I went with him. We went downtown Orlando, and we walked into this gym right off of Mills. And I walked in, and this place was a dump. I mean, it's straight up dump. And I'm like, how much does this guy want? And they said, yeah, he pulls out about 180 grand out of this place. I said, out of this place? I'm like, there's no way this guy's making this kind of money out of this place. So right away, I went to my wife and I said, we can do this. We can do this better. And so we kind of came back, started spitballing what we were going to do. And we started this personal training gym in Winter Springs. And we wanted it to be small. We wanted it to be schedule based. So people, it's not an open gym. It was just a scheduled with trainers, high value. So we could charge a little bit more money than just some little gym. And we did. We went ahead. We just said it's time to make an adjustment. And that's what we did. We called it My House Fitness. We wanted people to feel like this was their place, that they could come and hang out and get a good workout in. And within like 3 months, we were profitable. We were like, wow, this was a great investment. This was smart. And then we also wanted to franchise this thing, but we had no idea what that meant. We had no idea what the word franchising meant. We just knew that's what McDonald's did, and we wanted to duplicate it. And the kind of money we really wanted to make, we were going to have 2 or 3 of these locations.
Sure.
So we started figuring it out, just kind of Googling at the time and trying to talk to people and just try to really figure out how do you do this. And before you know it, I talked to our financial advisor, and he just said, Chris, before you do anything, I want you to call this guy. He's like, call him up. He's going to help you out. And so I called the guy up, and he was like, yep, I can help you out, for a fraction of the cost of these other people, because these other people are charging a lot of money.
Yeah.
So we went that direction, got our franchise disclosure documents done, got our operations manual done. And before you know it, in 2 months, we sold our first location. And it was a friend
impressive.
of a friend.
Yeah.
So right away, my wife and I were like, this is easy. like we're going to sell so many of these things. This is so easy.
So easy.
So, but what I did know was common sense of business. If anything, I needed that number one guy to kick butt. I needed to make sure that he was going to be my validator. He was going to be the guy that's going to be able to sing the praises of My House Fitness. And so sure enough, we got him operating over in College Park and found a good little location. Wasn't the perfect, most ideal situation, but we were like, we're going to adjust. We're going to pivot. We're going to get this thing open. And we did. We got him open. And before you know it, he's making money. He's doing great. He's singing praises. And so we were like, okay, time for the next one. So we sold another one, over in Oviedo, the other side of town. Did the same thing. Like, got to get him running, got to get him going. And then by that point, we knew what we had. We knew that there was opportunity. And this was 2012. 2013. So this was quite a few years ago.
Hmm.
Then we had a national company approach us, said, "Hey, we want to take you guys national." And we were like, my wife and I, we're always all in.
Yeah.
We don't take us to Vegas because we're just like, all right, we're all in. Let's just
It
do
really
this.
kind of requires it though, right? If you're gonna
Yeah.
go for it, if you're gonna succeed, you kind of got to
Yeah.
jump with both feet.
Yeah, I mean, my wife and I, we always laugh, and because she's gonna be listening to this, she knows I call her the shotgunner, and I'm more the pistol guy.
Okay.
She's the pow, 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 just start blowing it away, where I'm more of a methodical. I'm like, okay, I want to aim. I want to just see what I'm doing. So we analyzed it.
Yeah.
We kind of figured, okay, what are the pros and cons of doing this? But then we also looked and said, this is our opportunity. This just doesn't come every day. And we went all chips in and went to town. So we had a good run, sold about 35 locations. But during the process, we had to learn getting them open. That was my construction background, was, okay, how do we get these places open now? How do I find the right contractors? How do I find the right network of people? And so you have to learn quick, and we did. We had a good run. After about 2017, 18, though, we kind of figured our marriage was more important. So we kind of paused a little bit, kind of took a little sidestep. And then in 2021, we finally exited out of the business. But we love franchising so much, we stayed in it.
Yeah, you got it in your blood now, don't
Yeah,
you?
I call it's like the Wizard of Oz. When they get it to the very end and they pull the curtain back and you kind of peek your head in and you're kind of like, oh, this is what I didn't know about this game. I only thought franchising was Chick-fil-A's and McDonald's, and occasionally you might hear great clips or something like that, but I didn't have any clue what was behind that curtain. And then when we finally found what was behind the curtain, we were like, man, it's a family. I mean, it's when you really start communicating and building relationships with these other people that are either franchisors, franchisees, consultants, whatever it may be, you just, next thing you know, you're building relationships with these people because you're seeing them every 2 months, and
yeah, one of the revelations that we're having this past year is it's not an enormous community of people in franchising.
Right.
And a lot of people know each other already.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's exciting. I think if you're in business, I tell people now as a consultant, I'm like, if you're in business, if you own a business, you've thought about expanding it, period. One way or another, you've thought, okay, I've got it here in Orlando. I want to know how I can get something in Tampa. How can I get something in another town? And franchising is just one of the easiest ways to do it. There's some money involved, but at the end of the day, it's one of the easiest than doing a capital, taking all your capital and having all the nightmares and headaches that you're just going to come with operating over in Tampa and then trying to go back and forth. So when you really start analyzing, you're like, franchising is the way. And what I love about it is when you start seeing a concept that started like you guys right now, and you're taking those first couple steps. And I'm like, man, it's going to be exciting to see where you're at in 4 years, because you know these people, you've seen what they've done. And then it's just incredible. People, I'm like, when the original guy that started Crumble and you see him at these events 5, 6, 7 years ago, and now you see where he's at now, you're like, wow, it's so exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me just a little bit about the benefits of franchising versus starting your own brand. Some of the challenges that are mitigated by buying already into an established brand.
So that's always a good conversation with people, right? I could just do this myself. What am I buying into? And I give a good analogy is it's more or less, it's the pioneer. It's the guy who's ahead, that's got all the arrows in him. Why do you want to be that guy? Why don't you want to be the guy that already figured it out? He's already telling you what works and doesn't work.
Right.
At the end, what you don't know, you don't know. And it's sometimes that's where in franchising, it's kind of like the proof is in the pudding. It's like when you're really talking to somebody and you have the validation and you have people that are like, yeah, follow the system, because they've already figured it all out. Why do you want to do this all by yourself from scratch? Now, granted, there are people that are pioneers and there are people that are,
and they're meant to be.
Correct.
Right. They wouldn't be happy doing something else. I want to jump in real quick, but one of the things that we always say is we have the ability to start you on second.
Yeah.
You don't need to step in the batter's box.
Correct.
That's what the franchise fee is. We can start you on second and you're already on base.
Right.
You're ready to go. Oh, and by the way, we're going to be your third base coach.
Right.
We'll get you home.
I always say it's more of it's a timetable too. Would you rather take a whole year of going through living expense and money and trying to figure it out in a year, or would you rather just cut that in half and do it in 3 to 6 months? So it's kind of that's where you have to figure that out, you know? But, you know, at the end, some people, like you said, some people just want to start from scratch.
They're meant to take arrows.
Well, and some people are pioneers, and we need those pioneers in the
Correct.
world. I mean, and we've done it, but we talk often about when the time comes, do we want to start from scratch someplace else, or would we purchase a franchise
Right.
and then just help that franchise blossom even more? The other thing is that I think it's actually a good value because we know what we spent to get to where we are, the hundreds of thousands of dollars between training, development, and failures, and getting all the IP dialed in and all your trademarks, and hiring the right people and having the right people by your side and making sure all your attorney contracts are ready to go. And you see, looking back, you go, man, that's a ton of cash.
And it's not just the cash, James. There's the immense personal effort.
Time. Sacrifices.
Amazing amount of time. And really sacrificing, a lot of times when we're interviewing candidates, we need the spouse to be involved because they need to understand, are you on board or not? Because we can't have you in the background disgruntled.
Right.
Because our Bill's wife, my wife, we've had a sacrifice for this business for years. He may have been longer than us. But knowing the reward down the road, but to talk to other franchisees that can validate that the brand that you're looking at has some teeth, that's where you're saving a ton of effort and money. And so maybe you don't want to be a pioneer, but you don't want to be an employee anymore.
Right.
So now franchising is an opportunity. And frankly, to get into a cool brand for less than like $100,000, which you can finance most of that anyway, it's kind of like, wow, where was this my whole life?
Yeah. No, I tell people, I say, listen, a good franchise operation, franchisor, franchisees are your sales team. It's a sales team of that brand. It's what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it is. And that's what that little fee, that little royalty kind of goes for, is at the end, they're giving you everything else. And you're just a sales team on that team. And that's just how they all are, Some just kick butt, just you don't have to do anything. You're off to the races, just like any other salesperson in any other sales organization. And then a lot of others are just right there in the middle. But I do think that franchising is the way to go. It's the fastest way to go. And you can be very selective. You can kind of really pick what brand you kind of, relate to, that you feel good with. That's why what I do as a consultant is I really am a matchmaker. I'm really learning, what is your goals? Where are you trying to be? Are you trying to be, you want to be an empire builder, or are you just trying to create a job? Because franchising, you can do one of the two ways. And when I find that out, that's where I'm able to kind of guide them through that path of kind of, okay, where are we going to go next? What are you looking for? What kind of returns you're trying to do? And then on the end of the day, I always have that same conversation as, it still comes up to you. This is still business. This is not some magic where you just put an on sign on a business and people are going to come through the door. That's not what you're buying. Right. You're buying just as anything else. You are an entrepreneur now. This is your business. Someone gave you the guidelines. They gave you the whole outline. They gave you the cheat codes. You just got to follow the cheat codes. Follow cheat codes, you're going to be successful. And if you don't, it doesn't matter what franchise it is. I always tell people about Chick-fil-A. Everybody wants to say Chick-fil-A, right? And hopefully I'm saying that so this doesn't hurt your podcast. But
you're fine.
But I said, does Chick-fil-A still advertise in your community? Do they go to school events and you still see her? Yeah. Okay. Well, they're Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
So no matter what business you buy, there's no magic sauce behind it. You still have to be out there and hustle and keep pushing and keep advertising and doing whatever you got to do. You got to grind. It doesn't matter.
It's true. And the terminology that we've heard and identify with, we try to tell our franchisee perspectives, that you can't hide behind the brand.
Right.
Yes, it's a great brand. Yes, we've done a lot of work for you, but you can't just, like you said, hang out your sign and just wait for the phone to call. You've got to go out. You are that brand in your community.
Right.
You have to go be that brand.
Yeah.
But here's how.
And it is. I always want to make sure that, when people are looking at a franchise, like I said, there's no special, that you're buying this one special thing and just everybody goes to it. It's not. You are buying, just like as an entrepreneur, you are an entrepreneur. You are starting this business and you have to go out there and grind and do whatever you have to do to get the people through the door. Doesn't matter if you did it through your regular business and you just renamed it. Joe's whatever, or if it's a franchise national brand, they're both grinding, period. And I always like to set those expectations because at the end, some people do think that they just, hey, I got a franchise, so people do all the national advertising for me, and they just send me all the leads. No, they don't.
No, not quite.
Not quite.
So obviously you found consulting as kind of your franchisor life, and you settled on FCC because you knew some of those guys in there, right?
Right.
And then that led Jen down her path too. I mean, how did you guys?
So it was so funny with my wife, Jen. So she was with franchise consulting company as well. She was a consultant.
Mm-hmm.
So that was her first. She's like, I'm just going to try this out. And did fairly well. I mean, she was selling some franchises, and she just did her thing. At the time, I went back into roofing briefly to kind of get a roofing company going a little bit, and then she got approached. One of our friends within the industry, Eric, kind of called her up, said, "Hey, have you ever thought about working for Benetrends, which was a funding company?" And she just kind of laughed because she's like, "Funding me, finance, like." Really? And I say that very, trying to be funny, but at the end of the day, she's really good at what she does. She really is. Yeah. And she jumped in. She had a good opportunity. She's like, yeah, this is cool. I like it. She got to still stay in the industry, as a vendor for pretty much everybody. She really was able to take what she learned from being a franchisor and kind of really take that and hone it towards some other FSOs, franchise sales organizations, and really, let them know that, hey, I'm going to be your funding of choice, and so, she's a rock star for sure.
So I talked to, several brokers, and it's funny as I look at it because I know there's commissions to be paid, and I go, wow, I can imagine how much you're going to make in commissions on these jobs. And then I see, well, how much they have to spend to find the leads, and it's not as easy as it looks.
Right.
And then I find consultants, and they're like, well, I'm not really in it we'll make money. I know we're going to make money, but there's got to be some sort of, I don't know, proud moment when you find either a brand you can promote or you help somebody transition from corporate life,
right,
being the employee to owning a very successful business. Do you have any feelings on that, or you're just here to make money?
Maybe a little bit both.
No, and that's all right.
Yeah.
I think I do take pride in really finding a solution for some of, my clients. And a solution for that could be diversifying some of their income. Maybe it's something like a passion. Sometimes it becomes a passion, like, oh, I've always loved that. Well, let's look into that area of a franchise opportunity. Or it's a complement business, because at that point, if someone's already has a business or already being successful with it, there's plenty of franchises that they can just plug right into their current business and not really, skip a beat. Home service brands are notorious for that. And I think that sometimes my job is more of the educator to kind of say, have you ever thought? Because I think at the end of the day, when someone's got a successful business and he's just grinding every day, he's doing ABC, and he's just every single day ABC. But then I'm saying, hey, you do have time, you do have the resources, you have the structure already set up, throw a D in there, and it could be a whole nother franchise opportunity. And now you're going to be dipping out of 2 buckets of income. Boom, the light bulb usually clicks on for them. They're just like, didn't even think about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you're not hurt. You're actually building an empire at that point, because you may do the 3rd one down the road if it still really starts making sense. So yes, I'm a firm believer in diversifying your income is just as much as being in a stock portfolio that you diversify is just as much as a business diversification as well, especially if you already have the foundation already set.
Did you know that there are over 140 million homes in the U.S.? 97% of them have walls and ceilings that are built using drywall. The drywall repair industry is simply enormous, valued at over $13 billion a year. We're hole-in-the-wall drywall repair, and for years we have been perfecting the art of repairing drywall, developing and refining our systems, and strengthening our brand. Our business model is simple, scalable, and easy to learn. We believe it's a real game changer. We are successful drywall repair pros who decided to take our repair business to a higher level growing both our franchise training and support to industry-leading standards. You'll benefit from our vast experience helping your franchise hit the ground running and achieve success quickly. We'll give you access to our marketing team that has created strategic programs designed to get your phone ringing and booking new business fast. Join a fast-growing leader in an exciting dynamic segment of the home service industry by franchising with hole-in-the-wall drywall repair. Start building your own business and securing your own financial future today. We talk about plugins a lot because some of our candidates, they own restoration companies.
Right.
You know, they're out there thinking, well, how can I already do drywall damage every job I touch. How can I feed myself with that same job? So it only makes sense. Roofing companies as well. I mean, 40 roofing companies in Orlando that just work with Orlando on the wall. It's a great opportunity down the road to see that, which is why it's important. But being able to show somebody multiple businesses, because if you are a good plumber, then you want to start a plumbing company.
Right.
But if you're just a good business guy or you're a handy guy,
right.
you don't know where you want to be. That's why someone like you comes along and you have a process that kind of helps them decide, you know, okay, well, you're not going to be a good fit for a Marco's Pizza. Right. You're going to be a better fit for another franchise like this. And even being able to look outside of their narrow focus. Like, you know, if they want to, I'm going to own a restaurant, and then all of a sudden you realize that, well, that's kind of a hard market right now, especially post-COVID, then you can show them into other directions, right? What's your process of finding, if someone's like, listen, I want to be a business owner, where do I start? What's the thing that happens next?
Well, I always tell everybody, it kind of breaks down in the consultant, what I do, you know, is obviously it starts with anything. Almost like a real estate agent. I always tell everybody, I was like, it's the easiest way to dumb it down. It's like I'm a real estate agent. You'd love to have that $5 million house. Okay. Can you afford a $5 million house? Will you get qualified for a $5 million house? So that's kind of the foundation of consultant world, is more or less, okay, what kind of liquid capital do you have? How much do you have access to? Funding is a big question right from the very beginning. But I also want to make sure people understand funding doesn't necessarily, or a franchise, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're buying a $2 million franchise. Because that's still head junk that people do have, which is fine. They just don't know. They don't know there's so many different brands that are available that are very much make good money, easy to get into, and they're inexpensive. They have no idea that those exist, right? So that's kind of where it starts. You know, I need to know that foundation. Next would be, what is your background? You know, what is your background currently? How can I complement that sometimes? I talk to, like, for instance, right now I have eye doctors. I've been talking to a lot of eye doctors because there's a big growing business that's in the hearing business. So that's a very good complement business. It's an eye doctor's run just like it would be run as a hearing company. So it just gives you an example. But yes, I need to find out what kind of liquid capital. I also like to educate people and let them know that, love or hate the federal government, they do love business owners. They love that you're creating jobs and you're creating opportunities and things like that. So one way or another, the SBA is a great avenue for people to get the funding that they need. But I break all that down and kind of go over it. I don't really show them funding because that's a different, you know, obviously that would be about what my wife does. But funding is very important. Then territory comes next, you know. Right away, someone will get fixated on a brand. And I said, well, the territory potentially is not going to be there. And that's usually where we do like emerging brands that are coming on, because now they're going to fulfill that niche of the territory.
Yeah, that's the advantage they have, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so those are important. And I also like to educate people whenever they start seeing a brand, let's just say, either in their strip mall or on a truck that's in their area or things like that. I said the difference between when you're finally seeing it and finally hearing about it is that territory is probably already gone. So you've missed an opportunity. So that's why I also, you know, and people might say, oh, it's just a sales tactic. It's not. It's just the truth. You know, by the time somebody really starts seeing trucks or see the sign up on the building, well, guess what? You probably love that opportunity to been in there and get in there, but too late, it's gone.
You're already late to the party.
You're late to the party. But that also brings up the conversations. You know, maybe it's not today that you want to buy a franchise, but that's the conversation that they have with me to say, I'm going to keep you updated on what's coming up and what's not, because maybe it's not today, but maybe it's in 6 months, maybe it's in 2 years. Who knows?
Right.
I'm curious if you have any insights or comments on the current state of franchising and some of the coming stuff, maybe something you see on the horizon?
It changes all the time. Yeah, what I do like, what I do see is the niche-based type of franchises that start popping up. Hole in the Wall is exactly one of those. It's niche. It fulfills a niche. Some people don't understand how big that niche can be, and so sometimes that's more that education side. I always tell everybody it's always worth the conversation. If you ever even thought about owning a business or buying a franchise, have the 10-minute conversation. Talk to me and I'll guide you to where you can go, and then talk to the founders of that particular business. And I said that usually really changes people's perspectives and understanding of, that particular business or whatever. But yeah, it changes so much. Like,
Do you see a leaning towards home services or restaurant or some other industry like on the horizon?
well, I would say COVID definitely scared a lot of brick and mortar.
Mhm.
It did. It did. I think depending upon what state you're in, your fear was probably a little higher or lower. But at the end of the day, brick and mortar. But brick and mortar is now coming on hard right now. Commercial strips are becoming more and more of a commodity. That's the building is more. The construction's going through the roof. So I don't think it's necessarily just a home base slash or brick and mortar, or one's more than the other. But I will say home services is kicking. They continue to outperform, and it's mainly a lot of units. I mean, they're selling a lot of units in the home service. But
Any insights why that might be?
I think it goes back to still, and it's an inexpensive entry for most people. Now, it's all relative at the end of the day, right? So when I say inexpensive, it's just probably within the grand scheme of thousands of brands that are out there. It's funny, in our BNI group, we have a guy named Chuck, but I always use the analogy, it's Chuck and a truck, for
Mhm.
everything. It's a home service, it's Chuck and a truck. And
Yeah.
so I always, in our BNI group, have to be like, well, it's Chuck, but not Chuck. But Chuck does have a truck, but does his thing. But it's an inexpensive entry. And I like to pinpoint that with somebody, because some people are like, well, I got a few bucks over here, and I might have a little bit of money over there. You have the ability to do this. You have ability to tap into some really amazing brands, even like Hole in the Wall, that you don't even know. And then you would never know that unless you talk to me. And I know, and I'm not trying to say it just me, but at the
Sure.
end, you go on Friday and kind of Google, you're pissed off at your boss, and you're just like, I'm going to find me another job. And they go on Google. Well, those brands that you're looking at on Google are brands that they've paid a lot of money to get noticed.
hmm
And there's so much more behind
Yeah,
it.
they're just a fraction of the available brands.
Total fraction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But yes, I do love niches. I love when I see something that's just very unique. Like right now, all of Florida is sold out, so I'm not worried about saying it. But Resting Rainbow is a brand, and it's a pet cremation. And I first time I ever heard of it, I'm like, who's buying a pet cremation company? And then you really start analyzing it. You think about it for about 2 minutes, and you're like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I've never even heard of that.
Yeah, but
It does make sense.
I've had multiple pets cremated. So
Who would have thought?
yeah, I know. Nuts. All right. So let's just say I'm a business owner. I'm somebody that's got a successful business. It could be a vehicle wrapping business, or it could be, whatever I'm good at. And I think that I got something.
Mhm.
Can we talk to you to help us launch the
can.
franchise?
You can.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I love about that is one part of being with the FCC that is, I think, very unique, is our sister company. That's all we deal with. We deal with taking brands and taking them into and helping them become franchisors. And what makes it unique, even for myself, is the fact that I've already done it.
Mhm.
And I can tell them, say, okay, here's all the landmines. Here's the landmines we're going to go through, and I'm going to guide you through this landfill, because they're all over the place. And I'm trying to make sure that you get to, 'cause at the end, it's all about selling franchises. I hate to say it like that, but it really is. It's about selling franchises. People think it's it's very easy. It's like, oh, you got a good brand, you got a good logo, and then you're off to the races. You're sell, sell, sell. No, it's about getting good relationships, good partnerships,
Yeah.
knowing the right people, and that's what we are able to do. And that's what I love to do. So like I said, I go to networking events constantly. And whenever I see someone's brand, I'm always just like, we got to talk.
Yeah.
Let's talk, because you don't know what you just don't know what you have.
Yeah. Do you have an example of that?
I don't want to give any
That you
away.
can say, yeah. It's all right. You don't have to. You don't have to.
I would just say that the home service brands, there's still niches available that are out there that do very well, and the growth potential is through the roof. And so, yeah, you do stumble across a few every once in a while. And don't get me wrong, I have seen some of the craziest businesses get franchised, and they sell a lot of franchises. And I mean, I'm like, who franchises that? But people do.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. So if someone wants to get a hold of you to either talk about looking at multiple franchises that they can digest to fire the boss, or maybe someone has a good brand that wants to develop it into a franchise, how's the best way to get a hold of you?
The best ways you can go through the FCC website, the Franchise Consulting Company. You can also LinkedIn. You can look me up on LinkedIn. I'm a LinkedIn junkie. I never thought I'd be a LinkedIn junkie, but I am. But that's usually the best ways. Christopher Wherrell. I do go by Christopher for the professional world, but yeah, you can go through there. And I would love to, like I said, it always comes down with a good conversation. It's a good, sit down and just talk, because like I said, there's so much experience that I bring to the table that people just don't know, and then when we really start talking and start really developing that relationship, I can be very honest with them too, and try to point them in a direction, either through their own business or purchasing a franchise business.
Excellent.
Wow. Terrific.
Man, well, listen, our love to Jen.
Yes.
So grateful that we were able to have you on the show today too. And listen, let's keep in touch. I'm sure we're buds, so we're going to stay in touch. But
absolutely,
I cannot wait to see where it goes. And maybe we'll see if we can become part of the FCC inventory down the road.
There you go.
I think you could sell us, and I think that's important. So.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, listen, Very good show. Thanks again, Christopher.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you for coming on, and thanks everyone for listening. We'd like to thank you for listening to the Hole in the Wall Business Podcast with Bill and James. We'd love for you to join our Facebook group and keep the conversation going. If you'd like to learn more about us and our business, check us out at holeinthewall.com. If you'd like to learn more about how to start a Hole in the Wall franchise, go to holeinthewallfranchising.com.